Welcome to this introduction to quality and business development. My name is Lars rqivst and I will guide you through this lecture. The first natural question is, of course, why work with quality management? And there are two simple answers. One is that we should get more satisfied customers. We should be better to fulfill the needs of our customers. And the other is that we want to create more effective processes to get rid of problems, failures, scrap, and so on. Quality management is more like a balance between those two areas. It's a question of getting rid of things that is not necessary and at the same time creating a high volume. That's what makes quality management special. Not just cutting costs, not just focusing on marketing and customers. It's a balance between creating satisfaction and getting rid of problems. Quality in itself, if we define it, there are different definitions, but one simple definition is to satisfy customer needs and expectations. Quality is nothing that exists by itself. It's more something that exists in the head of our customers. We will be back on this subject area deeper later on in this course. Looking at the quality work in itself, we could say that there are two sides of quality management. One side is quality control and quality assurance. All the things that we do to avoid problems, avoid defects, to do things correct as it meant to be done. And the other side of quality management is improvement and development. All the activities that we do to trace problems, solve problems, do improvement and changes in our processes and so on. Historically, we started heavily focusing on inspection, control, and such things to get rid of problems. But today, maybe the major focus is more on improvements to be better and better and better. Historically, quality work is something that had existed in organizations as long as there have been human beings. Already on the pyramids, we can find examples of people working with quality control. On this picture you see someone measuring the size of the stone blocks, and that was of course important to be able to build the pyramids in the right way. But if we go back to the more modern history of quality, things started heavily in the early phases of the industrialization. When we brought farmers into the companies, trying to build cars and other things, we get problems. And to get rid of problems, it was natural to create inspection departments and so on. Things become more and more complicated and many items were produced. So it was not just enough to inspect things. We had to have more methods. Statistical methods became one of the first areas to develop things in, to be better on inspecting things, to knowing what risks that were taken when inspecting a certain number of items. Even the products become more and more complicated. Aircrafts, cars, the space industry and so developed during the 50s, 60s and so on. Reliability became another area of big importance. Over time, people also realized that quality was not just a manufacturing question. It was something that affected everyone in the company. We started to talk about total quality control with the meaning of looking at the entire organization. The legal system affected us later on, especially in the US. That could be very, very costly if you have problems that affect people. So quality assurance to prevent things become of big importance. And On later years, quality and quality management have become more and more a top management question, a leadership question, and that is what we could see in the companies that are successful today. We talk more about total quality management, and we also focus heavily on different concepts and methods that are used for being better and better and better. Today, the major focus is on a concept like Six Sigma and Lean. One thing that affected us heavily, that was the success of the Japanese companies. The Japanese society, of course, had a lot of problem after World War II, but they realized that the only way to get back was to be able to produce things of high quality. For many years, people was joking about Japanese products made in Japan was the same as bad things. But the Japanese, they spend a lot of efforts on improvements and to bring quality into their organizations. And in the late 1970s, things were changed. The cheap, bad Toyota car became the Japanese wonder. And many Western companies were heavily threatened by the success of the Japanese organizations. The car industry, camera industry, home electronics, and so on. Some areas never succeeded to get back. For instance, how many cameras are produced in Europe and United States today? Other areas took this more like a reason for improving themselves. So this really started the strong focus on quality here in the West. For instance, the car industry was an area that was really affected by this, but we succeeded to bring quality back into our factories and into our designs. Looking a little bit deeper into quality and quality management, what is this about? I would like to use three areas, three levels here to explain what quality is about. On the top, we have values and principles, and that is, what do successful companies really do? In the bottom, we have a lot of methods and tools. As within any subject area, we have a lot of tools that we use in the practical work when dealing with quality improvements and customers and so on. And in the middle, we have what I call concepts, and that is packages of experiences, tools, methods, techniques, and so on, that create a framework that we could use and implement in our companies to deal with those things. I will look a little bit deeper into each of them. Starting with the values and principles on the top level here, I would focus on what we used to call business excellence model. Here I have four models. First, I have the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award, that is the US national model for quality management that is used for giving the US Quality Award and awards in many different states to companies that had succeeded very well and that are of interest of lifting forward as good examples. Then we have the EFQM model, the European Foundation for Quality Management model, that is the common European model. Then I have the SIQ model, the Swedish Institute for Quality model, that is the Swedish model. And to the right I have the ISO 9004 model. The ISO 9000 is a global standard for quality management. And there we have a similar model. All those models, they have different core values. That is the basis for what we are trying to measure and analyze when finding out the maturity of a certain organization. And looking into those models, we could see that it's almost the same things. What we talk about and what we see in the successful organization is a strong leadership that is focusing on quality and improvements. It's people, employees in the organization that are committed and take part in this work and have the right knowledges. It's a focus on our customers, that we try to understand what's important for the customer and become good at this. It's a focus on continuous improvement, of course, that we all the time develop and improve. It's a focus on the entire situation. We talk a lot about process management, where we look at not just the individual functions in the organization and department. Instead, we look at the total picture based on the reason why the company exists, the way from a customer need to a satisfied customer. Looking in research, in literature, and in successful companies, this is what we found. It's not very difficult, but it's quite difficult to get there. So here we have a very common picture, even if in most companies there is a lot left to do. Looking further on this, we look at the bottom of this, methods and tools. And there is a huge toolbox, as within any subject area. The quality management toolbox is wide. It's everything from statistical methods to analyze and understand processes, to change management model to understand people and to work with changes of attitudes and behaviors and so on. So it's a quite complicated toolbox. And one of the most difficult things here is that compared to other professions, there is no education tradition within quality. For instance, some years ago we did a study from the Royal Institute of Technology, that we sent a questionnaire to 550 quality managers in the Swedish industry, and around 70% of the people that was answering had less than 5 days of formal training in quality. Of course, they had some other training. Most of them were engineers, but that doesn't help if they don't have the specific tools for quality. So here is a question of learning. And of course, when you learn a tool, it's not so difficult to use it, but you have to have the knowledge. So training is a very, very central part in a successful quality work. Finally, we have the concepts. And concepts, as I said, that is packages of tools, methods, experiences, and so on that could help us to do this in reality. And here we have many different concepts around. One of the problem here is that over time there had been a lot of fashion and focus on the tools in them and the methods in themselves. So one of the problem that we could see is that company too often focusing on getting the method, to implement the method instead of what it should be used for. This is not a critic to the method in itself. It's more the relationship and the behaviors in the organization. For instance, many companies had as a goal to implement ISO 9000 and become certificated. It's very important to have a well-working management system based on, for instance, ISO 9000. But the purpose, of course, should be to support the ongoing work in the organization, not just having the certificate. But this misunderstanding and this misfocus had created a lot of problems over time. But I hope during this course you will learn more about those things. So you, when you get out and start your work, could behave in a better way and see that those things that we learn here are very, very important tools and methods that could become the difference between success and failures. Thank you for listening.